face of your new police state.
Recently, Michael Sean Winters of the National Catholic Reporter spoke about how he hated Trump supporters so much that he wished that they experienced the reign of terror, which of course was a socialist revolution in France in the late 1700s, which slaughtered men, women, and children. Michael Sean Winters of the National Catholic Reporter wrote a column on the 3rd of July, 2018, titled, "A Grim 4th of July Arrives in the Age of Trump." In his article, which is still up, Michael Sean Winters says, "Normally when I get into a debate with a conservative friend and we are at an impasse with no hope of resolution, I try to ease the tensions with levity and say, well, when the revolution comes, I will put in a good word for you and your family. To my friends in the Republican political and legal establishment who have not stood up to Trump, when the revolution comes, you're on your own. I will be clamoring not for mercy, but for a seat next to the guillotine where I can do my knitting." Michael Sean Winters is allegedly a believing Christian and Catholic. He has said, allegedly in jest, that he will just do his knitting while you and your family are murdered by the socialist state under some future dream world of a new reign of terror here in the United States. Michael Sean Winters and the National Catholic Reporter have directly physically threatened you and your family. With the recent rise of socialism and the promised revolution and the violence of the left, I personally take these types of threats seriously. I believe it is a glimpse into the mind of the left and the progressives within the Christian church also. When discussing the reign of terror in France, where socialists overthrew their monarchy and murdered a massive number of people, massive number of churchmen, massive number of anyone who disagreed with their new socialist policies, many people will talk about the martyrdom of the Carmelites. On the 17th of July every year is actually the anniversary of the martyrdom of the Carmelites in France. In 1794 in France, 11 Carmelite nuns, together with 3 lay sisters and 2 tertiaries, were guillotined and buried in a mass grave in a nearby cemetery. They had been living with English Benedictine nuns who were forbidden in their native England because they had threw out the Catholic Church there. The Carmelites had dedicated themselves to prayer within their own convent. In their own convent, actually within the Benedictine convent, they had simply dedicated themselves to prayer for the restoration of peace in France and for the church. Hence, the socialist state had them arrested and under the charge of inciting a riot because they were praying. They were shifted to Paris and publicly murdered for the encouragement of the mob. As the nuns, aged 30 to 78, went to the razor, they renewed their vows and sang either, Father Z says they sang either Salve Rene or Vince Creator Spiritus. The accounts vary. This event was covered in several blogs, including Father Z's What Does the Prayer Really Have to Say? Father Z continues, in 1792, a guillotine was set up here and the killing began. Rasputin made the terror an instrument of governance. He said of terrorizing his own citizen, terror is nothing more than speedy, severe, and inflexible justice. It is thus an emanation of virtue. It was very interesting that I believe 11 days after Rasputin sent these holy women to the guillotine, he himself was sent to the guillotine, and the reign of terror ended a few days later after the martyrdom of the Catholic Carmelite nuns. The Catholic Carmelite nuns had begged the Lord to take out his vengeance upon their own bodies, but to restore peace. And 11 days after the state murdered these holy women, the man who ordered their murder himself was murdered, and this in the reign of terror, this part of the reign of terror was ended. Let's see a video that kind of demonstrates this and shows you the absolute barbarity of socialism and this people-led revolution of France. While focusing on these holy Catholic women who were more than brave is important and should be something actually you acknowledge with your family on an annual basis to remind your children, your friends, and your family that this was what has been required. This has already been given to them. These women and many examples throughout history standing up for Christendom is why they have the right to practice Christianity now, and to show them that this is what a people's-led revolution can lead to. Carmelites celebrate the memory of the Blessed Teresa and her 15 companions on 17 July, and many believing Catholics adopt them as patrons and also celebrate on the 17th of July. Yet while I honor the sacrifices of the Blessed Teresa and her 15 companions, this is not what I wanted to share with you. I wanted to share something with you that happened early in France in the year 1792, and it's called the September Massacres. The September Massacres was a wave of killing in Paris between the 2nd and 7th of September in 1792 and other cities in late summer of 1792. During the French Revolution, there was fear that the foreign and royalist armies would attack Paris and the inmates of the city prisons would be freed and join them. Radicals call for a preemptive action. I love how they talk about it. It's just preemptive action. Especially one journalist, Jean-Paul Marat, M-A-R-A-T, who called for draftees, which were, men who were not quite in the military, but cooperated with the military, to kill the prisoners before they could be freed. This action was undertaken by mobs of National Guardsmen, military, and some federales. It was tolerated by the city government, the Paris Commune, which called on other cities to follow suit. By September 6, half the prison population of Paris had been summarily executed, some 1,200 to 1,400 prisoners. Of these, 233 were Catholic priests who refused to submit to the socialist civil constitution of the clergy. They refused to submit. They refused to go along with the socialist revolution in France. The massacres were repeated in many other French cities. No one was ever persecuted for these murders. A group of 191 Catholic priests and brothers killed during this massacre were beatified by Pope Pius XI on 17th October 1926. Among the martyrs were the archbishops, bishops, and the last superior general of the Manciate, one of the congregation of Saint Maro. I believe that this September massacre shows a better example of the mob violence which happens during these people-led revolutions. And we'll go out with showing you this video of the September. By the way, on this video, it's taken me hours, days. I mean, literally, I bet you I searched for this video for over 8 hours. It's been deleted everywhere I can find it. I can't find it anywhere. I couldn't share it. And I finally was able to find it. And I am always suspicious of the New World Order, YouTube and Facebook and Twitter and guys who seem to delete videos that shows socialism in a bad light. So I refuse to stop looking for this video. I finally found it, and I want to share it with you guys because I believe, just like the slaughter of the Carmelite nuns, this is a better example of what this guy, this Michael Sean Winters of the National Catholic Reporter are calling for, because the reign of terror, this was part of it. This guillotine was the reign of terror. He's calling for this. And when you see this, when you watch this, watch when you see the troops. This is from a 1960s movie, so it didn't show things in gratuitous, but watch the troops raping the Catholic and Christian, the Catholic women. Watch the troops. Notice them just smashing the heads of priests. Notice them tossing babies out of windows. All of that is essentially true. And this is what the Catholic Reporter is actually calling for the supporters of Trump's and conservatives.
sera le signal de leur rébellion et leur ralliement aux forces du roi de Prusse. Ma retraite. Allez, à ton tour, l'aristo.
Viva Crystal Rey, Viva Crystal Rey, Viva Crystal Rey y the Virgin of Guadalupe.